In this video, we're going to learn how to animate icons in DaVinci Resolve. We'll go over some simple techniques to break apart a Photoshop file and animate the different layers. We'll look at a great way to do this in the edit page, as well as some advanced tips in the Fusion page. Let's do it. I am in DaVinci Resolve 20. A lot of what we're doing here does not work in Resolve 19, so make sure to update. And here's what we're going to do. We have this bell icon, which you can actually download right here. You can get this exact same Photoshop file and follow along with me. There's also a link in the description below. And if you do download this and follow along, I promise you're going to learn more. So take a second, pause this video, and click the link down below to sign up for our Media Vault, which is where we're putting all kinds of different practice media for the YouTube videos that we're posting here. And yeah, get that now, okay? Let's take this bell icon and drag this into the timeline. And by default, this just shows up as a single image, which if we want to animate this without breaking apart the layers or anything, we can totally just do that. I could do something like move a second or so into the timeline and go up here to the inspector and hit this little icon right here that will set a keyframe. That's going to tell Resolve that this bell icon.psd is supposed to be at 1 zoom at 1 second and 4 frames. Now we can move this over to the left, let's say to frame 0, and let's just take this zoom and we can take this all the way down if we want to. That's going to automatically set a keyframe here at frame 0, which shrinks that icon down to nothing. So now if I play this back, just hitting spacebar, that's going to grow like that. Pretty nice, right? Now if I want to change the speed of this animation, I can go and click on this button right here. This is the keyframes panel that's under our timeline. And here I can see these little diamonds. And as I grab these diamonds and move them back and forth, that's going to change the speed of my animation. So I have my starting keyframe and my ending keyframe. And so we'll wait and then it just goes bloop like that. Oh, such a nice way to work. But one thing with animation is you want the animation to ease. What do I mean by that? Well, let's just drag this out here. We'll see how this kind of grows at a constant rate and then immediately stops on one frame like this. It just goes kind of jerks to a stop. What always looks better is if you slow it down first. So you kind of slow it down and drift to a stop. And we can do this in the edit page by going up to our special keyframes panel up here. And if we click on that, then we have a graph of our animation. So it starts out at 0 and then ends at 1. We can make this a little bigger here. And what's going to help is if we select this last keyframe, and we can click one of these buttons up here. These are the easing buttons. And so actually this second one is ease in. And so as I click this, that's going to make a little control handle and flatten it out. And you'll see how this kind of becomes a nice gradual curve. That's the kind of thing that we want when this comes to a stop. So it just slows down before it stops. Oh, it looks so much better. Look at that. It's so smooth, beautiful. We can even speed this up and that's going to still have that curve in it. And so it's going to be a very nice animation. It looks very professional. I can select all these keyframes and move these back and forth to adjust the animation. So we'll just take these all the way to the left and make this come in a little bit faster. So now, boom, there's our icon. So if all you want to do is move your icon on screen or have it pop up like that, that's pretty much it. But let's get a little bit more fancy, shall we? In Resolve 20, if you right click on a PSD, you can go up to an option called Split PSD Layers in Place. And when I click that, that is going to split up all of these layers for our PSD file, and it's going to isolate them. So this is so convenient because we already have this animated coming in here. Let's have the bell kind of ring a little bit. So we can animate this bell just using this rotation, but I can actually set my anchor point. Instead of being in the center, I can set it right here so that it kind of rings from the top of the bell. Now I can see this a little better if I click on this little button right here. This is our transform overlays. And here we can easily scale and rotate and move things around. But for this, I'm going to adjust my anchor point right here. So this property, I'm going to take and just move that around. And you can see our little handle moving back and forth here. So I want to just move this up a little bit so that this second dot, this one right here, is right at the top of this bell. Then I can take this rotation handle and look at this. I can rotate the bell. See, I can ring the bell. Bling, blong, bling, blong, bling. It's true though, you can. And so let's have that just start with this rotation. So I'll set a keyframe there and we'll have it end with this rotation. So I'll just go to the end of my animation. and we'll click that there. But in between, we're going to rotate this a couple times. So let's have this rotate this way, and then this way a little bit less, and then maybe just the other way slightly, and then it comes to a stop. So now we have this rotating, bling, 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 like that. See? It works. That's cool. So now we have this bell rotating. Now, the timing is weird and the easing is weird. So the first thing we could do is fix our timing. Easy way to do that is down here in this panel. And so maybe let's just kind of spread these out a little bit and just see how that works. I'll just turn off our overlay so we can see a little better. Yeah, that's a little better. Ding, 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 ding. Yeah, that's good. I think maybe I want this a little bit faster. So I'll just kind of push these together a little bit. Something like that. Good. Let's see how that goes. Bling, bling, bling. Yeah, that looks nice. Great. I think maybe we'll start these faster and then it'll kind of end up a little bit slower. Ding, ding, ding. Yeah. Bling, bling, bling. Good. So now that we have the timing pretty much roughed in, let's go to our keyframes up here and adjust the easing. Now, by default, yours might look like this, just a list of keyframes like this. The way that you get to the curves is this button right here. Click on that, and that will show all the curves that are enabled here in this little curve toggle. And so I'm just actually going to take off all of my transform curves and everything and just select the curve for my rotation like that. And now we have this graph. I can select all of these and click this easing button. And that's going to add handles. And actually what I think I want to do is take these handles and flatten them out a little bit. So I'll just take these and just flatten them. I'm hoping that they update this with a way to do this automatically because it's kind of a pain, but you can do it. Okay, something like that. Now let's look at the animation. Ding, ding, ding. Yeah, that looks so much better. Now the one thing that's kind of being weird is this bell is scaling from the anchor point. And so we do need to adjust that a little bit. So let's just adjust the position. Sure. And so I'm going to go up to where I see the bell for the first time and just push the position down. And that should help it. Make sure that we ease our position also. Let's go to position Y and make sure that we ease that in same way. There we go. That's much better. And so now we have that animated bell. Now, there is a lot that you can do in the edit page. There's obviously so many controls and things that you can animate. So making an animation at this level is a great thing to do in the edit page. But if you want to get fancy, if you want to make it just a little bit fancier, this is a great job for Fusion. So let's get a little bit fancier here. I'm going to move down and just drag my bell icon over one more time and right click and just split PSD layers in place like that. And I can select all of these, right click and say new Fusion clip. And I'll switch over to Fusion. And here we have our icon brought into Fusion and we have our merges set up and everything, but I'm actually going to kind of do this myself just so we can stay a little bit more organized here. I will drag down a background and let's just make a black background. We can take the alpha down like this, so it's a clear background. Then we can take each of these and let's rename them. So this media in one, I'm just dragging it to this right viewer so we can look at it. So F2, let's call this the icon. This one is the dinger. Dinger. This one is the bell. Bell. Great. So we want the icon over the background. So I'll need to make a merge node for that, which I can drag down like this and then drag the icon into the foreground of the merge. And if we're viewing our media out, we can see the icons over the background. We can also just take the output of any node and drop it on the output of any node. That's going to make a merge and connect it to the foreground. That's a quick little tip. And then we have the dinger. That's going to go here. So we've kind of rebuilt this in Fusion. And now we can do a similar thing to what we just did. So we could take this bell and transform it. A good way to do that is just to use a transform node like this. You can drag a transform node in between the bell and the merge. That's going to actually animate just the bell icon here. So if we hit 1 on the keyboard, we can see this kind of isolated. And what I want to do is a similar thing. I want to take this pivot and push it up. We can see this kind of green X I'm going to push that up to the middle. And now we can do kind of a similar thing to in the Fusion page. And so sure, let's at frame 20, let's just set a keyframe for the angle. And then a little while later, we'll do another keyframe. Then we'll move this over here. And then back a little bit. And then back just a touch. And then it kind of settles. So it does the same kind of thing that we were doing earlier. And we don't have the exact same keyframe editor here in Fusion, but we do have a spline editor, which is very similar. So I can click on the spline editor. That's going to bring up this window down here. And I can check whatever property I want to adjust. And I'll make this a little bigger so we can see. I can click on this button, which will help me zoom out to see the whole graph. And this time it's actually a little bit easier because I can select all of these and just hit F on the keyboard, F, like that. And that's going to add those handles and flatten out that animation a little bit. I can take these and just move them up and down to adjust that animation. Let's take a look now. We have that dinging. Oh, that looks so much better. Looks good. Great. And I think this last one, I can hold Shift and drag this to the left. I can hold Alt and drag this out like this to ease this a little more. There we go. As I play this back, yeah, it's doing a great thing. So I have that main animation set up again. And just so you know, if I want to change the timing of the animation, I do have a keyframes panel here, which is kind of similar. We can zoom this in and twirl down our properties here. We just don't have the diamonds. These are little tick marks that I can move back and forth, but we're still adjusting the timing of the animation. It's just a little bit of a smaller interface. So now we have the animation of that bell, and it's looking pretty good. And let's take this whole thing and kind of zoom it out, which we can do with a transform node here. I can just drag a transform node like this and animate the size. So let's have the size be 1 here, and then at 0, we'll take the size all the way down. So now that zooms up. And let's ease that animation, going to the spline panel and just checking our transform size and zooming to fit. I can grab this and hit F. Great. So now this comes in like that. And then the bell dings. Yes. Okay. So this is all kind of stuff that we could do in the edit page. But what you can't do in the edit page is these other kind of fancy things that I want to add. For instance, I want to add a nice shine on this. So one thing that I could do would be, let's go before our transform. Let's just work on our icon. And what I really want is there to be a shine on this icon that's kind of in the upper part of it, like this. This is really hard to see with my red. I'm just going to view a different channel here just so you can see it. I want sort of a highlight here. And that's going to be sort of just a lighter color, kind of like a reflection almost, that's going to fill in this top part. I need the shape and the bright part of it. To make it bright, I can grab something like a brightness and contrast node and bring that in, and that's going to color correct anything that runs through it. I'm going to make sure that I view it here. So I'll drag that into the viewer, and I can push this gain up a little bit. Maybe take the saturation down, maybe the gamma up a little bit. I just want kind of a lighter version of this red, which is kind of a pink. That looks good. I'll make sure to click pre-divide post multiply and click black and white. And then I can mask this. So I could take something like a ellipse mask and run that into the blue input of this brightness and contrast. And then it's going to do that color correction only within this mask. And so I can move this mask up and kind of change that around and highlight the top of this kind of like this. Yeah. I can even soften it a little bit. So we have a little bit of a brighter part here. I think I don't want this quite so pink. So maybe I'll push the gain up a little bit and the saturation down. Something like that. I can change the blend for this and just kind of, I don't think I want it so soft either. For this ellipse, let's take that soft edge down, just make it a little bit soft, something like that. So now I have this nice little reflection. I think we'll do kind of a similar thing and kind of make this look a little bit more round. So I'm going to take another brightness and contrast like this. And maybe a mask, just a rectangle mask, and we'll just make a rectangle about this same size. And then we'll push in the corner radius. And let's take this brightness and contrast and push the gamma down a little bit. Make sure we're looking at it. Let's push that gamma down. Take the saturation down like this. And then what we can do with this rectangle is we can adjust the border width, and that's going to kind of push this in. Then we can invert this and soften the edge. And look, now we have kind of some rounder, kind of darker edges here. Take this brightness and contrast, maybe take the brightness down a little bit. Yeah, see? So now we can kind of darken those edges. Make sure we pre-divide post-multiply here. That looks really nice. Maybe we only want that kind of towards the bottom. So I could take another mask, like a rectangle mask like this, and I can run this through a rectangle mask. By default, it's going to add this rectangle mask together. So if I just look at the masks, this is what's happening. But I could set this rectangle mask to subtract, and then make this a little bit bigger, bring it up like this, and then soften that edge. And now we're going to have just kind of a darker part here on this bottom edge. So we're only applying this brightness and contrast, this darkness, where this white mask is. So just right about here. Just push that brightness up a little bit in this first one. We'll call this bright underscore BC for brightness and contrast, and we'll call this dark underscore BC. And we can do all kinds of stuff to this. I actually am not a big fan of this, this pink. I think I might change that a little bit. What we might do is just take a white background like this, and let's merge this over everything. But we're only going to do it inside of this icon. So I can actually use this icon as a mask for my background, boop, like this. And that's going to make just the white part for this background, like that. And then I could do maybe like an ellipse mask here on the merge to just put that white in there, something like that. Then I can blend this down. That's going to give us a similar result, but it's a little bit easier to make this more white if I want to. Kind of depends on what you're looking for. Maybe soften that edge a little bit. Maybe I'll just push this up a little bit like that. Yeah, I think I like that. So it's this nice kind of round feeling icon. So we can stylize this icon and make it look a little bit more interesting here in Fusion. Let's even add another little animation here. So this is the zoom. Let's have a press animations where it goes bloop, bloop, like this, like a little button. Could take another transform like this, and we'll call this press underscore XF for transform. And this time we're just going to press this in real quick. So like right here at frame 20, we're going to take the size at 1. A couple frames later, we're going to push it down a little bit. And then we're going to go back to 1 like this. Make sure we go to our spline panel for just our press. And we're going to flatten our keyframes there by hitting F. And now this comes up and goes bloop, just like that. On that press, right when it gets pressed down, let's change the color. So actually, let's go from, we can really pick whatever color we want, but I think maybe we'll just keep this gray until you press it, and then it'll be red. You can do this however you want. So we can do this by just color correcting this icon. So I could take this brightness and contrast and run this icon through this brightness and contrast. Make sure to clip black and white and pre-divide post-multiply. I can take the saturation down like this. So this could pop up like this. And then right here at frame 27 or so, we'll have this saturation go back up. So we can animate the saturation. I'll go 1 frame earlier to frame 26. It's going to be saturation 0. And then we'll have saturation 1 at frame 27. So it goes bloop and turns red. Isn't that cool? Bloop. Great. Now, I think this darkness is just a little bit strong. So we could go in and kind of mess with the gamma and all of that stuff. But one easy thing to do is just go into settings and mess with the blend. And that's just kind of the strength of the node. So I think I'll just push this up a little bit just so it's strong enough on the gray. And then when it's red, let's just keyframe this blend here too. So when it's gray, we'll have it this strength. At red, 1 frame to the right, we'll push it up to like here. Okay. So now we have this coming in. Isn't that cool? It's just like next level. It's like a bunch of little tweaks that are really easiest to do in Fusion. Boop. And then, of course, it lives in the edit page, right? So you can just boop. Isn't that cool? So 2 levels of animating an icon. You can do that here in the edit page, or you can use the power of Fusion and work that out. Again, if you want to try this yourself, there is the link to download the media as well as a bunch of other media from YouTube videos past, and future. It's called the Media Vault. It's kind of a new thing we're doing. And there's lots of cool like VFX and graphics practice stuff and assets, and we're updating it all the time. And it's kind of cool.